Hey guys, White Fox 1225 here, and today I thought it would be fun to look at some of the wars of Tamriel that aren't as well known and aren't seen in game. So that's what we're gonna do today. Some of these are very interesting, and I learned a lot in making the video. So let's jump right in and start by talking about the Fourscore War. The Fourscore War was fought between the Imperial Riemann dynasty of the First Era and the Tribunal of Morrowind, who resisted being conquered by the Empire for 80 years, making it one of Tamriel's longest wars. By the year 2920 of the First Era, the war was coming to a close. There were two major battles in this year. The first was the Battle of Bodrum, where Vivec ambushed Imperial forces by flooding a river into the plain below, creating knee-deep mud. The next day, when the Empire marched in, they were stuck in Vivec's trap. They were unable to move as they were barraged by arrows and spells cast by battle mages. Although the Empire wasn't defeated that day, their forces were greatly diminished. The next battle was the Battle of Aldmeric, which wasn't even much of a battle. Vivec had intelligence that the Imperial army was to attack the sister cities of Ald-Luval and Aldmeric. Thinking he outsmarted the Empire, Vivec stationed his army in the only place that he proposed the Empire could attack from. However, the Imperials brought alteration spellcasters with them, who put a water-breathing spell on the entire Imperial army. The army then snuck through the lake and claimed the city of Aldmeric without much, if any, resistance. Later that year, Vivec and Prince Juliek, Emperor Riemann III's son, sought to make a truce. The prince offered to leave Morrowind as an independent nation as long as he could take control of a few coastline cities and castles to defend the Empire from Akaviri attacks. In return, Morrowind could also take land from Blackmarsh as they see fit. Vivec accepted the terms and all thought that the war was finally over. But Emperor Riemann III was arrogant and did not see compromise like his son the prince. After the truce was made, Emperor Riemann III sent his forces to seize more land, taking the Black Gate and betraying the Dunmer. Although efforts would be made to establish peace once again, they ended up failing when both the prince and the emperor were assassinated, leaving the Akaviri potentate the throne. It is believed that the Akaviri potentate Versudi Shai plotted the emperor's assassination with the Morag Tong so he could control the empire. Anyway, this marked the end of the Riemann dynasty, and thus the end of the Fourscore War, and Morrowind would continue to be an independent nation until the time of Tiber Septim. There is a lot of lore on the Fourscore War in the book 2920, The Last Year of the First Era. I really enjoyed reading it, and if you're interested, I recommend you do the same. Next up is the 5-Year War. This was a war fought between the Bosmer and the Khajiit of the Third Era. The war started when Khajiit bandit groups attacked Bosmer wood caravans headed towards Valenwood. In retaliation, the Bosmer launched an attack on the city of Torval, which would later be called the Slaughter of Torval. It is said that the Bosmer killed thousands of unarmed citizens until reinforcements forced them out of the city. Since only Khajiiti bandits had been hostile with the Wood Elves, the leaders in Elsewhere by no means thought that they were gonna have war with Valenwood, and so the attack took them by surprise. Although the war may have started as retaliation for bandit attacks, it would quickly become a border dispute, with both sides trying to claim more territory. 2 years after the war started, the Khajiit and the Bosmer made a truce in the year 397 of the Third Era. However, peace did not last long, and the Khajiit quickly broke the treaty by crossing the Xylo River to attack Valenwood's borders. They burned multiple villages and claimed the land for the Khajiit. But the Bosmer had one more trick up their sleeve. In a move of desperation, they summoned the Wild Hunt, meaning the Bosmer performed a ritual that turned them into feral beasts. By doing this, they were able to wipe out the Khajiit that invaded the land. But once they had killed all the Khajiit, the feral Bosmer turned on each other in what is described in lore books as a cannibalistic orgy. So, with the Bosmer killing each other, the Khajiit reclaimed the Bosmer land and the war ended 4 years and 9 months after it started, with the Khajiit gaining a little bit of land on the east side of Valenwood. The last war we'll be talking about today is the War of Betony, a war that pitted Red Guards and Bretons against each other, which lasted a year in the Third Era from year 402 to 403. Betony is a small fishing island in the Iliac Bay that for some time belonged to neither High Rock or Hammerfell. However, since the island was so small and so isolated, it was very vulnerable to pirates and suffered several attacks. Lord Mogriff of Betony asked King Lysandus of Daggerfall for protection in return for fealty. King Lysandus agreed to protect the island, and thus it became a territory of Daggerfall. This angered King Cameron of Sentinel, as he claimed that Betony belonged to Hammerfell, citing a forgotten, if not forged, contract that was hundreds of years old, even though previously the island had been independent. Likely, Hammerfell saw the island as strategically important and wanted it for themselves. Although the Red Guards won a few battles, many of the skirmishes would be won by Daggerfall. Many credit King Lysandus and his heir Prince Gothry for these victories, as they were great leaders and tacticians. Although Daggerfall by all accounts was winning the war, the king's mother, the widowed queen Nulfaga, had visions of her son's death if the war continued. Trusting his mother's insight, King Lysandus tried to negotiate peace with King Cameron. To do this, King Lysandus planned to use the neutral city of Reich Gradkeep as a safe place where negotiations could take place. At first, talks were civil, but when Daggerfall suggested that King Cameron share Betony with King Lysandus, he became enraged and ordered his soldiers to attack Reich Gradkeep. The entire royal family was killed, along with many unarmed civilians, until Daggerfall troops forced them out of the city. Realizing they were outnumbered, King Cameron's forces of Sentinel retreated through High Rock. Eventually, the armies would meet again in Cryngane Field. During the battle, an unnatural fog spread over the field, blinding both sides. But when the mist lifted, King Lysandus' body was found with his throat pierced by an arrow. Immediately, Prince Gothried, King Lysandus' son and heir, was crowned as the new king. He rallied Daggerfall's forces and continued the battle. On the battlefield, he met King Cameron and a great duel ensued. At the end of the duel, King Cameron lay dead and Daggerfall was victorious. The Red Guards then formally surrendered, leaving Betony in Daggerfall's control, and King Gothried would later marry King Cameron's only daughter in an attempt to make peace between Sentinel and Daggerfall. That is pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I might make a part 2 if you guys want to see that. Make sure you let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, make sure you leave it a like. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.